One of these fields is autonomous driving. Other fields are mobility of the future, and really so much more. Fields where we have technical and juridical points of interest, so to say. And from my background, just some small information. So I'm not a lawyer, but I'm doing the communication in between lawyers and technicians. I'm a computer science engineer and I studied cognitive science. So
Fantastic.
That's it.
And bridging the gap between law and the technical side is, of course, very important because they all speak the unique languages. And
exactly.
Yeah.
That's the whole aim of it, to speak the same language and translate in between.
So you have a huge task. Thank you, Isabella.
Thanks.
Carina.
I think my mic is not working.
Yeah,
it's
it is.
working.
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So hi everyone, my name is Carina Zehetmaier. I'm actually a lawyer, so I'm the counterpart. And I am the president of a national organization, a non-governmental organization called Women in Artificial Intelligence, which I will give a brief introduction later on after our panel. And basically, I started out in law, but I also founded a startup, an AI startup. And in this kind of venture, me as well as Gabi, we also got some funding for implementing trust by design. So we really looked at how can we build trust from the beginning into our machine learning applications. And it's a very complex interdisciplinary topic, which we're going to discuss today. Also, Gabi and I, we developed an AI design sprint, legal and ethics, having the idea that when you want to implement AI in your company or basically build it yourself, so you have a use case before putting a lot of money into it and then realizing that you're not legally compliant or you have some ethical challenges, you can evaluate this basically from the first step before investing or losing a lot of money and realizing in the end that you can't launch it because of compliance issues.
Fantastic. Yeah. Thank you, Carina. Before I invite you, Gabi, Christina or Larissa, if you could please check about the conversations that are going on in the back, just to make sure that we can really focus on the conversation on stage here. Thank you. All right. Gabi.
So thank you. My name is Gabriele Bolek-Fügl, and I'm mathematics. So I strongly believe in diverse teams. So it's very good to have a lawyer with me when designing all these things. My whole business life, I was at international accounting companies like KPMG and Deloitte and doing IT compliance audits. So I was at the bridge between the IT technical and the business departments and assessing if they follow the programs, follow the laws. And this is the same what we are doing currently with AI systems too.
Brilliant. Thank you, Gabi.
Hello, also from my side. My name is Isabell Claus. I'm co-founder of Thinkers AI, headquartered in Vienna and with offices in Germany. We provide for very large companies AI services. We're concentrating on web data, analyzing web data, and finding the needles in the haystack. So anything that is really business relevant to a certain user. This can be for sales intelligence. This can be for compliance and for others. So the customer tells us what is he looking for, and we are automizing all these manual processes in companies.
Fantastic, thank you. Well, before we talk about what are the fundamental aspects we need in order to create trustworthy AI, I'm just curious to see from your experience line of work, what use case of AI are you personally most excited about? My notes. And maybe also which application have you used the most yourself in the past? And Isabella, I'm going to start with you. What use case are you most excited about?
So from the legal perspective, I would say it's in the field of robo-judges. There is a quite large potential to use AI, meaning in the phase of judging and in the phase of decision making, where it's already used in the Netherlands, for example. And another field where it can be used, and it's already used, is in the field of course, content generation, contract management, from the legal perspective. And one more thing, which is out on the floor now, a few days, like this ChatGPT, is also very interesting for the legal tech or legal perspective. Although we have to see that there are also quite large gaps. If we are looking for contracts, for example, these contracts are less specific, and what we get is very general purpose AI, so very general purpose feedback from this ChatGPT. So yes, it is a quite interesting phenomena, or quite interesting tool from an AI perspective, but it has to be questioned, and I think we will have maybe some questions also from the...
I just have a follow-up on the first point you mentioned. So you're excited about basically the ruling through AI, not through a human being. Did I understand this correctly?
Yes, exactly. Sorry. So to say, the idea is the robot judge gets a lot of case law information. Basically, on this case law information, it is trained, and of course, also the training material that has been sent there needs to be questioned very thoroughly, because basically on this case law information, the decision is made in the end. So it cannot, the verdict cannot be any other than it has been trained on. That's in the end the decision that can only be made on the material. So we have to be very clear that if there is any bias already in this information beforehand, the verdict will be biased as well.
Understood. Thank you. Carina, what are you most excited about as a lawyer?
Can I just follow up very quickly? So I think I read it in the Spiegel a few days ago, which has a huge focus on AI, the last Spiegel. And I saw that, I think it was China, who actually introduced an AI public prosecutor, but which I found, which is a bit scary also, detecting from all the surveillance that is basically going on where the crime was happened, and then making a state public prosecutor opening a process basically, and making an automatic accusation of a potential crime. So I was quite shocked when I read it, and I thought, oh, that's something I want to look into. But so besides that, I come originally from international law, and I worked in Geneva, in the UN, in the European Union. I also represented Austria there. And I also worked in one organization that I didn't even know before I got there, which is called WMO, so it's the World Meteorological Organization. And they do a lot of weather forecasting, and they do something that is really, that was stunning to me. They can predict when natural disasters are happening. And so they have all these AI analytics to forecast weather situations, but also disasters, natural disasters. And then there comes the second organization, which is the Refugee Office, which does a lot of humanitarian aid, which can then do basically it's called forecast-based financing by states. So they can basically intervene in a crisis situation before it happens and save the livelihoods of millions of people that would be eventually hit by a natural crisis, and so save a lot of resources, save humans from a lot of suffering, and save a lot of money also,
Interesting. And is this already in place?
This is actually happening. So I have to confess, speaking honestly, not in a public role, that states are very reluctant to use these mechanisms because they just like to come in as the heroes once the crisis hit. But so it's still in the process, but many states are actually getting into forecast-based finances, but because it really makes sense. And I think that's a great example how the organizations come out of their silos, work together, and how different applications also come together and really have all this AI that then leads to a lot of humanitarian aid on the ground. Yeah.
That's interesting because on the panel before, one of the speakers mentioned, there should also be a conversation about how we can use AI in the context of humanitarian side. Yeah.
So this is one of, another humanitarian one that I saw from the World Food Program when I worked there.
Yeah.
Which I tried to look it up before coming here. I couldn't find it anymore. But they made this kind of just taking pictures of babies and then seeing the level of malnutrition. Basically, it's something that a human eye does not really detect. But if you take a picture of the baby, the AI system can say, okay, this is really a malnourished child. They need to have immediate vitamins care and so on. So this was something that impressed me as well.
Fantastic. Yeah.
Sorry, can I jump up on this? Because I have a son which is 9 months old, and he should be a bit bigger, taller, and a bit more weight. I just hope that he's not judged by such a system, because it would make it really worse for him, because he's developing really well. But if such a system would consider him or judge him at any time, that could result in a really worst case, and we don't want,
No, I think it's interesting.
But it's a really interesting input.
Which brings us then to the point of how do we create an AI system, and also, let's say, mothers would trust, to for
exactly me as a mother speaking there, not as a.
So I don't want to take up all the panel, but I think this is also another issue, because where these applications are used is the places in the world where there is no internet access, no data awareness, and where actually people don't even know that this picture might be used, or that they are signing up for whatever analytics or what it might go through. But there is really a part in the world where there is not this awareness about this topic, and nobody even realizing that some potential rights they might have and that might be violated in
Absolutely.
But jumping in that discussion,
yes,
so we very clearly see that it's not the AI system, it's how we human use it. And on the one side, we can use AI with very positive impact, but unfortunately, we can use it in a very negative way too. And this is a whole problem. So when we're discussing with trustworthy AI systems, it's more how we humans are using the AI system. So the system isn't neutral. No, it depends on the data and the training and the framework of the model, but the bigger impact is how we use it at the end.
And is there a specific use case? Sorry, Isabella, is there a specific use case for you, Gabi, you're particularly excited about?
So I love it having AI systems in picture recognizing systems in the medicine, because if we can detect illness in a very early stage, we can do most of them. And I love it in the research, because there are so many really big problems facing us in the next years, and the problems needs to be decomposed in very smaller problems, let me say this, and then we can solve it, and we need AI system to have the overview of all these solutions.
Fantastic. Isabell, since you're an entrepreneur as well, what is it that you are most excited about?
Yeah, I think the whole hype around generative AI is really, on the one side, worth it, and the other side, we can discuss a lot on security issues. For instance, we are working also in this security field, cybersecurity and physical security, and with generative AI, text generation, you can create a lot of mass information. So that means you can also create a lot of disinformation. So that's a really big security problem at the moment. So it's exactly as you said, you can do very good things with the new technologies, especially the very well known now technologies, and everybody tried it, experiments. But you can also use it in a way that creates really, really problems on the security side. So
And I guess this brings us then to the next question. So what kind of frameworks do we need on a legal, on an ethical, on an education level to make sure, there is this trust for AI? And Carina, I want to start with you, since you're a lawyer as well and you're representing Women in AI Austria here as the president. What do you think is required? What are the crucial steps? And also, what is it maybe that you're already doing in your line of work to get us there?
Yeah, one thing that I wanted to add to the generative AI systems, which I also read and I thought was very interesting, it's going to be a big question of access also. Again, like there is huge parts of the world that might have a big disadvantage because they will not be able to even access this kind of technologies. And that's something I wanted to mention. But and also to just get an idea of what I think is the most shocking use. Since you also said image recognition or, in this case, face recognition. When this was invented, I guess usually inventors, they don't mean to hurt someone. They want to make the world a better place, and they don't have bad intentions. So the problem is that many times only when the technology is applied, you see what can happen, or even you find actors who see potential to use it in a way that is actually violating rights. And for me, the worst example is actually that Huawei filed a patent about 1 year ago for Uyghur spotting in China. So Uyghurs are a Muslim minority in China, and they are actually also put into these labor camps. They are discriminated, they are held arbitrarily, and they are really deprived of their rights. And if you think about it in this human rights humanitarian context, this is really scary. So if you feel you want to target one specific group, you can do this with face recognition and really have it into your system. And so I think the role of us is to make sure these things don't happen. So even if we can do them, it really doesn't mean we should do them. And so we need to make sure that we have a legal framework where there is the AI Act in the making. Then you also need sometimes some ethical guidelines, because law is not always on the same or in the same pace than the technical advances. Yeah. And so ethics actually help us just to also think ourselves. Does this work with our values? So we have this process. Basically, we look at the value-based engineering process where we define values, and then from there we see for our values what ethical standards are important to be fulfilled, or what do we not want to violate. And then I think you mentioned something really important, which is also the educational aspect. But I don't want to take up all the floor. So
maybe just to add, the thing is, you talked about AI Act also. How much impact do we have with such regulation? Yeah? Because I worked for like 8 years in cybersecurity, and I saw, if somebody wants to do something bad, he or she's going to do that. Yeah. So we are not regulating the world. Let's put it like this. It's a very long process, year-long process. AI is a field that develops very quickly, and nobody can predict which kind of AI applications are coming up. And there's a huge problem for regulation, because how do you regulate something that it's not known what you're regulating? So I really doubt that we find our freedom, peace, with putting on regulation like it is done, or like it is planned to be done, and feeling relaxed about the outcome. Yeah.
And what do you think, Isabell, do we then need to do while we are, quote-unquote, waiting for the regulations to be set in place? But what do we need to do, what can we do, especially, you representing also the entrepreneur side?
Yeah, so again, going to cybersecurity, you cannot really prevent something to happen. So it's very important that security measures really catch up, that things are really state of the art within every region in the world, that also politics connect and also get in my opinion, much more educated about what is possible, what are the technologies, what are other regions working on, how does all this work. So I see a lot of potential still to educate political leadership and to really coordinate worldwide and to have an information flow that is really working. I don't see that at the moment, but I hope it's coming.
Fantastic. Gabi, please.
Maybe I can step in here at the moment because I was, several years an cybersecurity auditor too, and it's a lack of the technical tools which gives criminals the advantage to be a criminal. And starting with the pandemic, criminals going to home work too, so they were in the home office and had really much time to explore new attacks, and we see it currently. We have so much fake news, we have so much cyber security lags and ransomware attacks, so this is a really big problem, and we need to think about if the currently open market in the internet, is that the real way to do market with trustworthy partners, or do we need more protected marketplace as it is in the real world? So we don't have an open market in the real world too. We have laws there, and we must protect, I would say, non-affine technicals for these attacks too in the internet. So I think we have a lack of many tools which are in the internet, and we need to protect the consumers.
Interesting, yeah.
Just a comment, I fully agree, and I think it's called European sovereignty that we are talking about, having really certain technologies, key technologies developed in Europe that are simply keeping us sovereign and keeping our knowledge and information sovereign. Otherwise, this is controlled. And so I see a lot of potential in doing this very quickly. We are very late, I have to say.
Yeah. Since Isabella, you're preaching as a lawyers and technologists,
Yes. No, coming back to the legal issue, I was listening, and I wanted to bring in some points. So this AI Act is on a European perspective, giving us a directive, and it's in the making. So it's up to the national body of law in each country to set and give the directions after the AI Act has been established. And one of the main challenges will be to say, what is AI? What is the challenge of, and this is the challenge describing an artificial intelligence system, as we all know that is very complex and can be, and so it should be broad enough to enhance, to contain all of the new AI systems that come. And basically there has been a decision made this week, I think.
Yesterday.
It was yesterday that they will, based on this definition, they will take the definition from the ONCE.
OECD.
Thank you.
Paris,
OECD, yeah, exactly. OECD, which is a broad definition. Thank you for coming up. And this definition will be used and it says, as I recall, it's a system that use a machine system that is using AI on a very general purpose. The thing is that even this definition now will be still amended because because it's so hard to come down to one definition of AI, and they are doing this now since 2.5 years, and now they have come to one single definition.
One that already existed.
Exactly.
Which I guess then shows the challenge, because as Isabel mentioned earlier, right, we talk about regulations for something that is constantly changing, yet doesn't even fully exist yet, and we don't really know the implications. I mean, I always think back, I don't know how it was with you, but when I was growing up, there was already a mandatory law in Austria that when you're sitting in a car, on the passenger seats, you had to fasten your seat back, as well as when you're sitting in the back. But I do remember, as growing up in the kid, we never fastened our seatbelts. My granddad's car didn't even have seatbelts in the back. I mean, now unthinkable, right? Now we even have systems in the car that make this really annoying noise, this beep, beep, if you fasten your seat back. Because unfortunately, we have learned through many accidents, and then law has caught up over a long period of time. But the challenge here is that this period of time is really, really short at the moment. Yeah. Carina?
Are you finished?
Yeah, just one more thing for the legal perspective. Also, what comes in here is a lot of norms and standards. Also, coming back to your statement about this about automotive safety laws. So here you would have, for example, standards like Senelec, and they would also sit in their boards and think about, for example, artificial intelligence. What are the definitions? And in the end, the European Union looks also at what Senelec is doing and takes this advice, and basically on this it will be decided how to go further.
Yeah, interesting.
Oh, sorry.
No, that's great.
No,
Thank
perfect,
you.
yeah. So just comments that I found of all of this. So when you regulate, something you need to realize is also that usually laws work when they are taken in by the people.
Yeah.
So if you don't get this acceptance, it doesn't work. So for me, the most placative example is a very funny one. It's in Spain. They have this prohibition to drink on streets, but everybody does it. And I don't think anybody will ever respect it, because people just meet even on squares instead of bars in Barcelona and like to drink there, but it's completely prohibited.
Because it's not enforced.
It's enforced.
Yeah,
I mean, the police doesn't enforce it, but it's such a big thing, you can't just punish every single person doing it, because everyone does it. And so they just gave up on it, basically. Or in some countries where people just cross red lights without, and police driving by, because they don't have the resources to focus on that issue, and people just don't care. And and then there is this question of how much should we regulate? And I am an entrepreneur also, and I think it's a very hard one, because there is this kind of nice argument that you can get legal certainty if you regulate and people at least know what they're operating in. But then there is this other reality that hits you, especially as a startup, where you need to do so many things and you can't afford to take so much time to take. It's very hard for you to take this time, to take this money, to get certified as they're planning to have. So it really comes at a very high cost also for innovation, and it's very important to make sure that this is not killed. And then the last point, what makes it very, as you mentioned, the fake news. I mean, it's so hard also to regulate, because you think of, for example, content generated and fake news, but the same technology can be used to actually hunt people using child pornography in the darknet, because you're creating fake images and you actually can help fight this terrible crime online. So it's very hard to regulate it, because on the one side you want to use it, to use the potential in the fight in cybersecurity, and on the other hand, you can do really bad things with it. So how do you do in the end? It's very challenging.
Absolutely. Gabi?
And I think we need to work in this area, because currently the criminals or big companies are targeting people who don't understand what stands behind the tool, like Facebook, Instagram. This is not the criminal, that's the big companies, only to make sure. And we will be the older generation which will not understand the technique behind all in a few years, because your parents didn't understand the video recorder, and you need to help them in that area, and the same will be with us when we are going further in our life. We will be the ones who not totally understand how technique will work, so we need to work now on these frameworks, so that the AI systems will protect the not so technical people.
And what I hear from you, Gabi, here is because we've touched on the legal aspect now. So this education is important. Can you tell me a bit more, like what you are personally, if at all, doing in the field of education? You know, maybe sharing also your expertise and knowledge, maybe having conversations with peers around potential harmful use cases of AI, but starting a very basic, you know, like explaining what AI is. Can you maybe share some examples what you're doing in that field? Who wants to start first?
Yeah, so as Women in AI, we are currently in 2 projects which helps people in different professions to understand what AI is doing. So one of these projects are Erasmus Plus project, which aims to medicine and human science people to understand how data science, how data should be used, and how AI is working. And the second program is from the Arbeiterkammer. Maybe Isabella is the project lead on that.
Thank you. Yes, it's an Arbeiterkammer funded project, and the question is how to raise awareness in the field of AI in the healthcare section and also in the medical. And what we would like to do is we collect systems and software in the AI field around Austria, and projects such as EU projects where Austria is in there as a project lead or as a partner. And the idea is to explain to the, for example, let me give you an example. We have a dementia project where people that have dementia, they will be be engaged with this application and trained. And what we would like to achieve is that people accompanying people with dementia, so adults around, they should be aware how to set up such a system and to have less of a burden and less of a fear if they interact with such systems, because in the end they should they should support their relatives, that they, even in case they have dementia or any other medical disease, and understand how this AI system works and not work against it. That's the idea.
Yeah, so we try to explain to normal people how these systems are working, what will be done with the data which this system collects. And we try to explain that they can trust these AI system and support them in fully, because some of these tools are collecting the data in a pseudonymic way, so that the next generation of patients will have the chance to be pre-selected for this illness, and we can do research and have better medicines and better therapy in that way too. So this is a very exciting project, because we help for the future, maybe us for our future. We don't know if we will ill in that certain areas as well. And on the other side, we help the manufacturer of these AI systems to invest in trustworthy AI systems, because trustworthy AI systems are are not so cheap if we do it in a not trustworthy way. So we need to invest these budgets, and therefore we need people who will buy it.
Fantastic. Thank you. Wow. Isabell.
Just to add, maybe I think that the current time of a really AI hype, where everybody is somehow interested, it's very important to do a lot of education and a lot of communication, because I also see a lot of fear, be it by politicians, be it by also students from economics, for instance, that are not technically understanding what's happening, and they fear, what could I do? I would like to get involved, I would like to understand, but I don't. So just to translate this really technical world into a wording that everybody can understand and communicate a lot about, I think that's really key, to have a general education about AI, what is good, what is bad.
Across all levels of society.
It's necessary,
right?
actually.
Fantastic. I would love to see if there are any questions from the audience, or if anybody wants to comment how much you maybe trust or don't trust AI, please. And if you could also introduce yourself.
Yes, hi, I'm Carina. We are business angels, so between entrepreneur and science, and we are a big fan of as well digital humanism, so
yes.
so human factor in technology. And thank you very much for this extremely exciting panel as well, the previous panel. And I would like to recommend one book, also it's as well e-book, which is called Perspectives on Digital Humanism. Mr. Prem, from the previous panel, the professor, together with his colleagues, scientists and philosophers, people from Technical University of Vienna, put together lots of articles about digital humanism, about technology, AI, and it's really fascinating, this dispute, not only in Austria, but as well above in whole Europe. And it's really worth reading. The articles are short and they are very straightforward. Yeah? And I think this is, to your point, Isabel, it's about education. Yeah? That we are not scared and it's not a black box. Thank
Fantastic. You. May I ask, where's your trust level when it comes to AI at the moment?
I'm trying to get educated.
Yeah. Good point. Thank you.
That's why I'm here.
And I guess we have another question in the back. And if you could also introduce yourself, please.
Hello, my name is Carina. I'm coming from the US Embassy in Vienna. Thank you very much for this interesting panel, and I just delighted that we have actually a full women panel, which I find great. That's true, so sorry for that, but yeah. Yeah, I actually have two questions. First of all, the first one would be more a comment. Actually joining what you just said, or echoing what you just said, I think that we need really a general, broad approach when it comes to education. So I think that AI needs to get into our schools, because in the end, we will all be engaging with AI to some point, and we need to make sure that the generation who is growing up now is actually aware and does not fear AI and is able to use it to the best knowledge. So I think this is, and their politics are actually kind of needed to take the next steps. The other comment, and I would actually also love to hear what you think about this, the AI Act, as you said, is on a European level. But I think that we have to be very careful as not to create, as we did in the past, parallel systems. Have a US system, for example, a European Act, whatever. So we really kind of need a general, broad approach on a global level, because actually AI is engaging the whole world. So yes. And then a question, as a complete layman in this field, how does kind of peer-to-peer review work in the field of AI? Who can control AI? Is a human behind that who kind of has his or her eyes on it and can detect mistakes, errors, and correct them? Or how does this work? When we talk about trust, it's also necessary to know how potential mistakes or errors can be kind of corrected. Thanks.
Maybe I can answer the last question.
Yes.
So in most of the trustworthy AI guidelines, it is highly recommended that while the AI system is in the business processes, humans need to control the results and need to have the last approval if personally, very, very high intensive impact would be on persons. So this comes from the GDPR also. So it's not only for AI system, it's for all systems. But most of the trustworthy AI guidelines recommend this. So, and this is maybe the second one. We don't have only in the EU the trustworthy AI guidelines. We have in the whole world about between 100 and 200 different trustworthy AI guidelines. Some of them from private companies, some of them from countries. So the Vatican has its own trustworthy AI guideline. It's but only I think a 6-pager, so it's very small. but you know, most of them is in the Bible. So
well, it's an attempt. That's good.
yes.
Yeah.
So many countries and many companies are thinking about that. But as you said, it's not on the same level. And yeah, I'm a little bit proud that we in the European Union are one step ahead.
Just to the AI guideline, there's a company in Austria, Left Shift One. They have also a quite big ethics guideline. They are also in the field of trustworthy AI, and their draft is 10 pages. So in comparison, and one more thing I would like to comment on. That was what was your no. You go because I lost.
We'll come back to you, Isabella.
Well, I'm with you, but I think it's very theoretically that the human at the end is responsible or should be the last person that looks at something because of the data mass that is simply there. So it's not really a very practical approach. And
but as always, you need to have a sample size and you need to protect as well your company for the liability for wrong results.
But it's still a point of discussion, I would say. And you have such huge problem like a general bias in data in, for instance, web data, coming to gender or whatever topics, but for the last 60 years you simply have a lot of male content, so you cannot exclude this bias and what to do with it. So things like this are there, and so I think it's a bit theoretically what is done. Also, I think we have a strong muscle in Europe for legal approaches, but we don't have it for tech. That's the hugest problem ever, because tech is accelerating. You know, if you have a certain know-how in your society, or if it's even in a small group for key technologies, then this is accelerating to the next and next and next level. And Europe is basically very far away from understanding what is coming and creating divisions for AI in the world. So that's really a disadvantage.
The vulnerability, and it's interesting that you mentioned this, Isabel, because tomorrow we actually have a keynote with a woman, as well, female expert on cybersecurity. And leading up to the event here, we already had a conversation about, well, you know, we're all excited about autonomous cars or smart homes, but then those vulnerability risks are almost an afterthought if they're even in the discussion, right? So the awareness is not really there. Thank you. Cap?
So first I wanted to say I mean, we are all actually from the organization Women in AI, and I think you realized, which I think is very beautiful, we're not all of the same opinion, right? So we are very diverse and we have different standpoints, and when we also do a lot of, actually we commented all the European acts, also with Alexandra, who is sitting over there, who is a lawyer as well, and then we did a lot of, we registered as a lobby organization in the EU. And what we do is we really look at things from different angles, and we don't always agree. And it's very hard topics where there is not always one opinion. So I'm very proud of that. And then I wanted to say, in terms of education, I wanted to highlight that funnily, so Gabi is teaching computational thinking at social sciences, and I am teaching legal and ethical aspects of trustworthy AI in informatics. And I also, this is a bit of a compliment to the tech sphere, because you know, I studied human rights, and I felt that I really have some very cool stuff to share with certain studies. And I went to universities and I proposed to them. I said, you know what? I started an AI company. I learned a lot, and I think this is super important for you to look into and to just get a feeling about it. And nobody cared. And then you look at these tech FHs, TU writing, Professor Neidhardt, we were being involved with a lot, writing these books about digital humanism, really positioning themselves. I think really this is something that that the social scientists can look up to the tech guys and women who go into this and say, okay, we want to confront ourselves with the ethical, legal issues, even if it's hard for us and it takes out the speed and it might bring some problems, but we are willing to look into it.
Yeah.
And so I think this was a very, very interesting experience for myself. So they still have not reached out to me, the faculties I asked.
Maybe they might after this panel, who knows?
So this is a few years later. But and then finally I think I don't think we will have this global approach. So I really think that there is China and the US being the big players, and Europe saw its position, like with GDPR, as the regulator. And as you said, we missed a lot of investing in infrastructure. We don't have like the European working cloud provider. We don't have we try, but we still are all running on Asia, Microsoft and Google and so on. So I really think we missed something, and it's going to be very hard to speed it up. And I really think this act is going to pass. And the last thing I read is that the US is not planning on having a legally binding act that can be enforced. But also we did some research because we did a workshop in the US, and we actually found that there are states like New York who just passed a law or is in the process of passing a law making for automated employment decisions, tools, obligatory to publish the bias, the potential for bias, so basically publishing statistics about exactly who was hired, which gender, which ethnicity, and so on. And if you want to avoid this, you just need to go back human and do it by yourself and not use an automated decision-making tool, basically. So it's very interesting what is going to come out of that, yeah.
That's fantastic, and I think also what I hear from you, Carina, is that no matter what background we have, I think everybody should be part of this conversation. I guess this is also an invitation on whether you're from a social background or economics background. We need those different points of view, and I think that's almost a bit the fear, right? Like, if I'm not from, computer science, do I even have the right, quote unquote, to say something? Yeah,
exactly. So that's what we need also in this sphere, because we learned that machine learning or AI is not only to build a code. You need to have the experts to make sure the right data is fed into the system, and you need to have the ones who say the output doesn't work. You need to redo it, right? So if you don't have the domain experts who are willing and able to communicate with the ones developing the tools, and you're lacking this diversity of professions and eventually also of gender backgrounds and so on, you might just not build tools that are reliable and deliver what you want them to do.
Yeah. Gabi?
So it's very important to say that AI systems will be every time right, but only in a mathematical way, and this is very important, because mathematics is an abstraction of the real world. So we miss some really important information in mathematics, which is in the real world, and we miss it in the data which train the AI systems, because otherwise we will be not ready in few seconds with our, whatever we do with the AI tools. So keep that in mind, that an AI system is only mathematics, and they come to a result which is an abstraction of the real world. But you, as a human, you can see the whole world, and you can assess if these results are right or not. But keep in mind, AI systems came every time to a result which is in a mathematical way right.
That's a fascinating perspective. Thank you, Gabi. Before I give the floor as well to you to introduce women in AI, because looking at the time, Isabell and Isabella, do you have any final remarks you want to share with the audience?
No, I really like what you're saying. It's just the danger is that this mathematically and the overall through world is not really
aligned.
Yeah, or it can be understood by everybody, to be honest. Yeah, so systems get better. They will get better. They will be like a human telling to you, and you believe it. Lots of people will believe what is there. So there are there will be problems arising a lot. I think it's hard to solve them. I think Europe should speed on. So yes, time is a very big factor, and we should prioritize technology more. We prioritize legal aspects. We should definitely prioritize building up technology here.
Fantastic, thank you. Isabella, final remarks?
Yes, maybe one final remark that Carina reminded me. We had this question regarding the peer review, and it let me describe it a bit this way. Maybe it can be, we have these auditing systems in place in several fields of expertise, for example, auditing in the financial business, and all of this auditing cannot be only automatic, and it will not be only automatic also in the next years. We need the systems to be semi-automatic, meaning that always there is a human being there in place which needs to check, who needs to check whether the decision made has been right, exactly because the automatic decision of the system that can be really well if there is a lot of data, then you will have a lot of information and classified it right. But in the end, you need the human being in the back that needs to check whether. For example, in plagiarism detection, it's also very crucial. These systems won't work if you only let the pure literature pass through them, and after the plagiarism detection says, okay, you have done a plagiarism, and you can do so much worse if you just believe what the system has said. You need the human being there and saying, okay, maybe this student has meant it in another way because he or she has written the statement and described it in another way. And also coming back to ChatGPT, because there is a lot of rumor going around that this is used for plagiarism. Again, here the human needs to jump in and see whether this is this has been the intention to do a plagiarism. It cannot be done by just a machine to say, to make this decision.
Yeah. Thank you, Isabella. Carina,
So,
do you want to introduce
yeah.
women in AI?
I just need to say one more thing, so which I think is a good summary, but it will be also the topic for a complete new talk. It's very important how you actually make sure that the outcome is correct, because if you just feed something with 99 data points saying yes and one no, 99% is going to be a yes, right? So you will have a 99% of accuracy in a system, and you build it completely on these bias, basically, to perform this way. So you need to have a full, what we usually use in machine learning is this confusion matrix, where we really perform different things against each other and see actually what works and what doesn't, and is this a fair distribution, which is very hard. So this is something that is very complex to do then. And then, thank you. So coming to Women in AI, so we are an Austrian non-governmental organization. We are part of a global organization which operates in more than 100 countries and has about 40,000 members around the world. In Austria, we really have our own Verein, because we are really engaging in this project, as we mentioned, with the Erasmus Plus and also the Arbeiterkammer, and we are also engaging in other projects right now. We also lobby, as we said, at the European Union to make sure that we can put also our perspectives to the laws that are passed. And also we are making sure that no one can say they didn't find a female expert on any issue of AI. So this is why we are very actively talking on stages and encouraging every one of you, if you are looking for some kind of AI expert and you're looking for diversity, please reach out to us. And last but not least, we are interdisciplinary, as we also said, and we really believe that we can create sorry, now I forgot this one word.
A better future.
And nachhaltig,
Sustainable
thanks. Sustainable AI solutions through diversity and having us working all together. And so we would be happy for everyone who wants to get to know more about us. Everyone is free to join who believes in our mission, so no matter what gender you are. And we are also opening a chapter in Salzburg, so we are in the process of getting it started. So if you're interested in this, also come to talk to us. We are going to be at the lodge back there, or some of us, yeah.
Fantastic. Well, Isabella, Carina, Gabi, Isabel, thank you so much for this fascinating conversation, and thank you for being with us today.
Thank you for having us.
Thanks.
Thank you very much.
And the next panel discussion starts at 11:30, focused on business transformation. Danke.